Takuhukam Satyam Param Dhimahi.
O my Lord, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord Sri Krishna, son of Vasudevaya, O all-pervading personality of Godhead. I can't see the rest because of the picture, Prabhuji.
There isn't any picture, Mataji.
Oh, wait 1 second. Okay, sorry, my apologies. Oh, my Lord Sri Krishna, son of Vasudevaya, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval causes of all causes of creation, sustenance and destruction of all manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of the Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the greatest sages and demigods are placed into illusions, as one is bewildered by the illusionary representations of water seen in fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do material universes temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature appear fractal, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna, who is eternally existent in transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusionary representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
Text 2. Dharma prochita kaitpotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam Vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapatrapa anmoolanam Srimad-Bhagavate Mahamuni krite kim va parerishvara Satyo hirtya avarudhya tetra kriti shurubhistachanat.
Translation. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavatam Purana propounds the greatest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, complied by the great sages Vyasadevaya in his maturity, is sufficient in itself of God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of the Bhagavatam, by the culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
Nigamakalpataror galitam phalam sukhamukhad amrita dravasam yutam pibate bhagvatam rasam malyam muhur aho rasika bhuvi bhavuka.
O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad-Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, the fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarine juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls.
Namishe nimisha kshetre rasaya sonakadaya Satram Swargaya Lokaya Sahasra Samam Ashata.
Translation. Once in a holy place in the forest of Nemirsayana,
Nemisharanya.
great sages headed by the sage Sonaka assembled to perform a great 1,000-year sacrifice for the satisfaction of the Lord and his devotees.
Ta ekada tu munaya pratra huta ganaya satkritam suhatam ashinam praprachur idam adarat.
Translation. One day after finishing the morning duties by burning a sacrificial fire and offering a seat of esteem to Srila Sutta Goswami, the great sage, made inquiries with great respect about the following matters.
Text 6. Rashaya uchaha tvaya khalo purnani seti shashani chanaga akyatani api aditani dharma sastrani yani uta.
The sages said, "Respected Sutta Goswami, you are completely free from all vice. You are well versed in the scriptures famous for religious life, and in the Puranas and the histories as well. For you have gone through them under proper guidance and have also explained them.
Yani Veda vidam shreshto Bhagavan Bhadrayana Anye cha munaya sutta pravavara vido vidu.
Being the eldest, learned Vedantist, O Sutta Goswami, you are acquainted with the knowledge of Vyasadeva, who is the incarnation of Godhead, and you also know other sages who are fully versed in all kinds of physical and metaphysical knowledge.
Veta tvam saumya tat sarvam tatvatas tat anugrahat bruyaya snigdasya shishyasya guravo guhyam api uta.
And because you are submissive, your spiritual masters have endowed you with all the favors bestowed upon a gentle disciple. Therefore, you can tell us that you have scientifically learned from them.
Tatra jnanashayushaman bhavata yad vinikishitam pumsam ekantatah shreyas tannaha samshitim arhasi.
Please, therefore, being blessed with many years, explains to us in an easily understandable way what you have ascertained to be the absolute and ultimate good for the people in general.
Prayayanu alpeshu sabhya kale asmin yuge janaha manda sumanda matayo manda bhagya hi upadritaha.
O learned one, in this iron age of Kali, men have but short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Hare
Thank
Krishna
you,
Prabhuji.
Namrata
Sorry for any
Mataji and Priya
mistake.
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna Prabhuji, and apologies for any mispronunciations, and
That's
thank you
okay,
so much
Mataji.
for the opportunity. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Hare Krishna. So today we are covering text 7. Yani Veda vidam shreshto Bhagavan Bhadrayana Anne cha munaya suta pravavara vido vidu. Translation and purport by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Share.
Translation. Being the eldest learned Vedantist, O Sutta Goswami, you are acquainted with the knowledge of the Vyasadeva, who is the incarnation of Godhead, and you also know other sages who are fully versed in all kinds of physical and metaphysical knowledge. Purport. Srimad-Bhagavatam is a natural commentation on Brahma Sutra or Badrayani Vedanta Sutras. It is called natural because Vyasadeva is the author of both the Vedanta Sutras and Srimad-Bhagavatam, or the essence of all Vedic literatures. Besides Vyasadeva, there are other sages who are the authors of 6 different philosophical systems, namely Gautama, Kanada, Kapila, Patanjali, Jamini, and Ashtavakra. Theism is explained completely in the Vedanta Sutra, whereas in other systems of philosophical speculations, practically no mention is given to the ultimate cause of all causes. One can sit on the Vyasasana only after being conversant in all systems of philosophy so that one can present fully the theistic views of the Bhagavatam in defiance of all other systems. Srila Suta Goswami was the proper teacher and therefore the sages at Naimisharanya elevated him to Vyasasana. Srila Vyasadeva is designated herein as the personality of Godhead because he is authorized, empowered incarnation. So before we reflect on this particular verse from Srimad-Bhagavatam, I'd like to offer my humble obeisances to the previous acharyas and seek the blessings of our Guruvar, Guru Parampara, and all the assembled Vaishnavas. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Tanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Cha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyat Deshatarine Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namine Shri Varshavabhanavi Devi Daite Kripaya Dhaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daite Prabhave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubheva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation once again for this particular verse. Being the eldest learned Vedantist, O Suta Goswami, you are acquainted with the knowledge of Vyasadeva, who is the incarnation of Godhead, and you also know other sages who are fully versed in all kinds of physical and metaphysical knowledge. So just to bring some context to this particular verse, there are various dialogues going on in Srimad-Bhagavatam, as you probably have seen already or heard through the introduction of this wonderful book called Srimad-Bhagavatam. And Mukunda Hari Prabhu, I think, went in quite a bit of a detail as far as the various topics being discussed in Bhagavatam. But here, we know that there is a dialogue happening between Srila Sukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj, and we have all heard of the story of the curse of Parikshit Maharaj, or for him it was a blessing, because that's how he took it. And then we are also aware of this particular conversation which is happening between the sages, 10,000 sages assembled in the forest of Naimisharanya, who were headed by Saunaka Rishi as their head, who was then now welcoming and has seated Srila Suta Goswami, who is considered a Maha-Bhagavat, a pure devotee of the Lord. And the reason he's been considered in such a high position is because he was directly present and he directly heard the Srimad-Bhagavatam from Sukadeva Goswami. He was present in that assembly when Sukadeva Goswami was speaking Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. So therefore, he has become an empowered teacher to now share that knowledge to others. And this is the means and the way to acquire spiritual knowledge and then to assimilate it through many other generations. And this fact has been confirmed or backed up, as we call it, through a verse of Bhagavad Gita, which is Evam Parampara Praptam, Imam Rajar Sayo Vidu, Sa Kalenehe Mahata, Yogo Nashta Parantapa. That this science of discipline, the science of Bhakti Yoga is coming in disciplic succession. And Srila Sukadev Goswami is in that disciplic succession, and so is Suta Goswami. So in one sense, Suta Goswami has now accepted Sukadev Goswami as his spiritual master. He's heard Srimad-Bhagavatam. And now the Sonaka Rishi, who is heading all these various sages sat in the Naimisharanya forest, have also realized that among all these people, if there is somebody who can actually answer the question of the sages, is none other than Sukadev Goswami. And in fact, Suta Goswami. And in fact, right at the beginning, when this question was, these dialogues are happening, in the subsequent verses, we will come to a very beautiful verse where so many questions were asked. And then finally, Suta Goswami gives the answer to one of the questions of Sonaka Rishi, that what is the aim of life? You know, what is our life really meant for? Can somebody tell me what is that verse he is hinting towards from Srimad-Bhagavatam? Okay, let's give it a try. So, sorry, go ahead. Somebody was trying to speak. Okay, so the verse is in Srimad-Bhagavatam, first canto, and I believe it is the second chapter. I do not know the exact verse, or perhaps the first one, where Suta Goswami is answering to the sages headed by Sonaka Rishi, and he's saying, Dharma swanishtita pumsam vishwaksenu katha suyaha na utpated yati ratim shrama eva hi kevalam. He's saying that the life's aim should be directed towards self-preservation or through science of self-realization. And one should not really aim for anything else but this main aim. One has to carry on with his duty, but the essence of this verse, or the essence of the advice of this particular verse, is that one should try to dedicate one's life and one's energy for the sole purpose of self-realization. And that should be the aim of life. He's saying nothing else, in one sense, as a main aim. So now let's have a little look on this particular verse of what we have hearing from some of the verses. So right at the beginning, Srila Prabhupada is pointing out that how Vyasadeva, he is the compiler of all the Vedas as well as the Srimad-Bhagavatam. So there are four kinds of the Vedas predominantly, and there are different branches to those Vedas. As you can see here, there is Rig Veda, there is Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, and Atharva Veda. Thank you, Mataji. So this is the Vedic tree, and it has many, many branches. And these four Vedas, originally there was only one Veda, which was then later on divided into these four Vedas. Who will tell me what was that one Veda which got divided into the four Vedas?
It's Yajurveda.
That's right. So it was initially Yajur Veda, which was then divided into Sama Veda, Artha Veda, and Rig Veda. So even after compiling all these Vedas and then writing Mahabharata, as we will hear in the coming verses, that Vyasadeva wasn't very satisfied. And that is the reason he then wrote this beautiful masterpiece called Srimad-Bhagavatam under the empowered instructions of his divine spiritual master, Srila Narad Muni. And then Prabhupada goes on to explain a very important fact in the verse where he says, this is from a purport of the 17th chapter, 18th verse, where I've taken, where Prabhupada talks about those various sages, right? So here it is mentioned that there are many theoretical philosophers in the world who put forward their own theories of cause and effect, especially about the cause of suffering and its effect on different living beings. So here is a breakdown. So these, generally, there are 6 great philosophers. Kannada, the author of, so there we heard the names. Now you have their contribution. So try to pay attention. Kannada was brought about by the author of Vaisheshika philosophy. Vaisheshika philosophy deals with the material energy and the soul. And then Gautama, was the author of the logic. So this deals with the logic. Then we have Patanjali, who's the author of the mystic yoga. Then we have Kapila, who's the author of the Sankhya philosophy, which we will hear later on in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. I believe it is the Kapila Dev instructions to Devahuti is in the 5th canto or 3rd canto. I'm trying to remember.
6th canto, Prabhu.
Which one, Mataji?
6th canto.
6th canto. Okay, thank you. So Kapila, the author of the Sankhya philosophy, and then Jamini, the author of the Karma Mimamsa, and Vyasadeva, the author of Vedanta Darshana. So these are the personalities who Prabhupada mentions, but he doesn't give a reference to their contribution. But I have captured this reference from Prabhupada's purport in the 18th verse of the 17th chapter, where Prabhupada is giving the breakdown of this. So something very important to note. And then in this verse, Prabhupada goes on to explain a little bit. It's quite amazing. Prabhupada gives this 3 points. Try to remember in the purport. He first establishes the fact that the Vyasadeva is the compiler of the Vedas as well as Srimad-Bhagavatam. Then he talks about these sages, and now I'm sharing with you what their contribution is. And finally, the point Prabhupada makes is about Vyasasan. He says, this is in one of the lectures of Srila Prabhupada, where he says that Vyasasan means, Vyasa means Guru. And because he's our original Guru, when spiritual master's birthday is observed, it is called Vyasa Puja. This Vyasa Puja means a spiritual master is representative of Vyasa. Just as we are teaching this Bhagavad Dharma, the Srimad-Bhagavatam, we are following in the footsteps of Vyasadeva. So actually the preacher's seat is Vyasadev's asan. It is the seat of Vyasadeva. Just like in the High Court, the seat of judgment, or what is called, Prabhupada is asking, that seat, nobody else can sit there in that seat. Only the High Court judge, representative of the king for giving law to the citizens, he can sit down. Similarly, the Vyasasan is occupied by the representative of Vyasadeva, who can speak on behalf of Vyasadeva. This is the system. So this is Srila Prabhupada speaking in a lecture, and there was a reference made obviously in the purport which we read today, if you remember. So one may ask the question, what does Vyasasan means? Did anybody knew the actual meaning of Vyasasan? Anyone who learned something new today in this session? Or
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, so there is Naina Mataji who.
Yes.
Okay, I'm glad there is one person who has found this to be helpful. Okay, there is some more.
Very helpful.
Oh, a few more. Okay, great. All right, that's great. That makes me feel better too. So Vyasasan is nothing but the representative asan of Vyasadeva. That's why the word Vyas comes. It comes all the way. So he's our ultimate guru. Of course, our supreme topmost guru is Krishna himself, but Vyasadeva is none other than the literary incarnation of Krishna. That is why Prabhupada says that when we celebrate the appearance day of our spiritual masters or Srila Prabhupada, it's called Shri Vyasa Puja. So we offer the arti to our spiritual master in his Vyasa Puja, or if it is Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja, we offer an arti to him. Well, for Prabhupada, he's our founder Acharya, we offer him arti every day. So the idea is when we offer an arti to our own spiritual master in their Vyasa Puja, he actually is only a representative of Srila Vyasadeva. So he, in a very humble way, accepts it, but he offers all that glorification and puja back to his spiritual master, and his spiritual master offers it to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And then like this, it goes on. So on that note, we will also discuss a little bit today about the contribution of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And then among many things, some of the gems he left, there are so many instructions Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has left. And as I was sharing earlier a few weeks ago, that if you want to know more about the life of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, then you need to have something called as Bhakti Vaibhav. So coming back to this point of Vyasasan, so you see that in the temples we have this beautiful Vyasasan, and many other places you travel across ISKCON, you will see the Vyasasan is there. So one way of approaching this is that, am I qualified to sit Vyasasan? Am I really the representative of Vyasadeva? Probably not, especially in my case, as I can see with so many faults, so many anarthas still being there. However, we do it as a service to our spiritual master, and if that is the mood, then the idea is that And the most important thing is that you're trying to share what you're hearing from the previous acharya without your own speculation. So, and if you're doing it in that mood of service, then one can sit on Vyasasana and speak for the glorification of Hari, Guru and Vaishnavas. And if it is done in that spirit, then it is very much can be justified. However, the idea should really be that one should in his heart cultivate the mood that I'm not qualified to be a representative of Vyasadeva, to be sitting on Vyasasana and giving Srimad-Bhagavatam class or any class for that matter. But my dear Lord Vyasadeva, because you are the literary incarnation of Krishna, because you have empowered all the other teachers who are coming in this line, and I take the shelter of my own spiritual master and taking his mercy, I pray to you that you give me the empowerment that I can speak something, and in the process of doing so, I purify my heart. That should be our first and the foremost prayer, that whatever I'm saying and speaking or saying any Harikatha, it's meant for my own purification. Everything else comes after that. Of course, all the Vaishnavas who are hearing, they will be benefited. But if it is done that, okay, I do not know anything, I'm just an instrument of my spiritual master, and whatever I have learned from him and our Shiksha Guru, Srila Prabhupada, I'm just sharing that with everybody. And that is the way to approach Srila Vyasasana and speak something about Krishna. You see, this is how wonderful our process is. Even somebody who may not be completely qualified is actually given such a position. One, to understand the fact that, okay, how glorious is Srila Vyasadeva, and second, to have the opportunity to spread the glories of Srila Vyasadeva, Sri Krishna, to all the people of the world. And if it is done in that spirit, then it's okay. So those were some key points. I just want to see if we have missed anything else from the purport of Srila Prabhupada. I wanted to spend the remaining 10-15 minutes talking about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, since it is his divine appearance day today. Here Prabhupada writes in the purport that Srila Suta Goswami was the proper teacher, and therefore the sages at Naimisharanya elevated him to Vyasasana. Srila Vyasadeva is designated herein as the personality of Godhead because he is the authorized, empowered incarnation. You see? So the same point as I said, Suta Goswami was completely qualified to be seated on the Vyasasana. So does anybody has any comments or questions before we look into some of the... I have taken about 25 instructions of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, among many which he has left behind. He was such an amazing scholar, pure devotee of the Lord, and plays such a significant role in our lives, actually being the direct Guru Maharaj of Srila Prabhupada, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. But I want to stop here for a moment to see what we discussed and see if anybody has a reflection or a question before we go through those 25 instructions of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur on this auspicious day. A reflection is not necessarily a question. It is more of something which stuck in your point from either monologue or from the purport of Srila Prabhupada, which we've been discussing, and you felt, okay, that's useful and I can contemplate on it, I can try to apply it in my life. Okay, so if no one has any questions or comments at this stage, let's go straight into the life of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and see some of the instructions he has given us. So let's see who is available online. Chandra Chaitanya Prabhu, would you like to read the first 5 instructions? Okay, Prabhu is not either. Prabhu, are you on mute or? Okay, any volunteers who would like to read the first 2? Actually, we'll go 2 by 2.
I can read, Prabhuji.
Go ahead, Mataji.
We are put to test and trial in this world. Only those who attend the Kirtana of the devotees can succeed.
Right. Go ahead.
Every spot on earth where discourses on God are held is a place of pilgrimage.
Thank you. So the first point, we are put to test and trial in this world. How many people would like to disagree with that? Please put your hands up. Only if you disagree with that statement. But if you agree with your statement, you can also put your hand up and put a message in the chat box that yes, I do get put into test and trials in this world, if not every day, to be honest. And only those who attend the kirtan of the devotees can succeed. What does it mean, of the devotees? What does kirtan means?
Chanting Hare,
Sorry, Krishnangi Mataji, what does it mean?
chanting Hare Krishna mantra.
It can mean that, but there is another meaning of kirtan. Kirtan comes from the word kirti. Kirti means glorifying. So, sorry, go ahead, Mataji.
Association of devotees.
Yeah, no, yeah, it does, but more importantly, the word kirti means to glorify. So here, what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying, that there is some background noises coming. I would appreciate if the devotees can stay on mute. Okay. So kirtan means to glorify, and what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying, that if you want to rise above the dualities and rise above the test and the trials, then try to glorify the Vaishnavas, try to take the Sangha of the Vaishnavas. Because when you take the Sangha, you will learn how glorious the devotees are. Like today, Karthichan Prabhu shared a beautiful short talk of 12 minutes by His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, speaking on the glorification of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And there Maharaj was saying that when the devotees, when you glorify the Vaishnavas, then you do not have envy in your heart, because and by doing so you really understand. And he was glorifying Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in an amazing way, that and he was saying that, reminding us that how, if you want to look at troubles in the life of the devotees, look at the life of the Pandavas, look at the life of Dhruv Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Ambrish Maharaj, Gajendra. So Maharaj was giving us all these examples, trying to tell us that when we glorify these wonderful devotees of the Lord, like Ambrish Maharaj, like Dhruva Maharaj, like Prahlad Maharaj, then our tests and trials seemingly do not look that big. They become very, very small against what the Pandavas have gone through, against all the various these wonderful Vaishnavas have gone through. So look at how important teaching Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is trying to give us. Second, every spot on the earth where discourses on God are held is a place of pilgrimage. You see, we have to make wherever we are our home as a pilgrimage by discussing Harikatha, by discussing Bhagavad Gita and Srimad-Bhagavatam and chanting the holy name. Then our house is a place of pilgrimage, without any shadow of doubt. Of course, places like Dham, Vrindavan, they carry special potency, but the only reason they carry special potency is because of the pure devotees who are still living there and glorifying the Lord. Okay, who would like to read the next four?
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Go ahead, Mataji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Possession of objects not related to Krishna is our main malady. Number 4, let me not desire anything but the highest good for my worst enemies. As dalliance with the body is luxury increases, so wanes the spirit of service of the Lord. Those favored by God find their paths set by thorns. There is no peace or happiness in our worldly life. Circumstances create turmoil and annoyance. Hare Krishna.
What profound instructions of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He's saying possession of the objects not related to Krishna is our main malady. That's what is keeping us in the world. We like to possess things which are not related to Krishna. And then he's saying, let me not desire anything but the highest good for my worst enemy. Look at Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's mood, how genuinely compassionate he was. He's telling us that we may not get along with many people, but even though we don't, and today Radhanath Maharaj was saying, when it comes to service, we should serve as much as, because service is one platform where we can really wish well for others and for oneself. So when you serve, you may not get well along with anyone, but when you serve, you're serving Lord Hari and the Vaishnavas. So he will arrange things, but more importantly, even if you're not able to, you're not happy with someone, please try to wish or desire good for them. Do not be inimical. Do not think, let this person fall down from 16 to 8 rounds. This guy does not know how to treat with me. And that's not the mood of a Vaishnava. The mood of the Vaishnava is that, my Lord, it's due to my past karma that I'm struggling to get along with this personality. I'm seeing so many faults in this person, but actually the fact of the life is that those faults exist in me. But because I have not come to such a advanced stage that where I'm able to recognize and see these faults in the others, that kindly accept my prayer at your lotus feet, that this devotee always be happy in your service and always do the best for all the living entities. And please help me to develop positive outlook towards this person, even though I may not have that outlook today. That should be our prayer. And if that is our prayer, then you see how Krishna arranges things so beautifully for us. Even just by making that prayer, your heart will feel lighter. Just by saying that prayer, you will feel, oh, actually, this is the fact. Radhanath Maharaj says that when you glorify the devotee's qualities, very subtly those qualities start to manifest in your heart. So any moment you are feeling morose, dejected, frustrated, disappointed by an interaction which happened between the devotees or non-devotees, just try to wish best for them, that wish that they come closer to Krishna more and more. And then you will see the magic, because that's called selfless prayer. Even though you may not like the person, but you know that super soul is situated in that person's heart, and you're praying for their uh, for their best in Krishna consciousness. And that prayer becomes very dear to Krishna, and then you see how Krishna reciprocates with you actually as a person. And finally, as it dalliance with the body, so the more you increase the bodily demands, the more you will start to go away from the spirit of seva. My Guru Maharaj says your seva will save you. Because my spiritual master is from America, so the way he says is so sweet. Your seva will save you means your service will save you, because it is ultimately our only shelter. Nam seva, dham seva, prasadam seva, they're all services, and that's what will save us. And those favored by God and find their path set by thorns. So what is Bhaktisiddhanta saying? Krishna consciousness is not so easy. It is simple for those whose heart are simple, but it is not so easy. The path is definitely difficult. But there is no peace or happiness in this worldly life. So you rather step on thorns and experience a higher bliss than to actually experience the worldly happiness which we get like a mirage in the desert, as we read in the initial verse of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. And these circumstances are continuously creating turmoil and annoyance. And if you don't think that is the case, then see the life of the various devotees like Prahlad Maharaj. How much turmoil did they go through? Gajendra, how much pain did he go through? Pandavas, what all did they not go through? So if you look at their lives, you'll think, you know what, Krishna, I'm in a much better space. I'm in a much better mind. Let me be grateful. This is my quota, but you have reduced this suffering. Tatenu kampam susumikshamano. You have really reduced my suffering. Lord Brahma is saying, I deserve much, much, much more. But you're so kind that you're only giving me a part of that whole. I should have been going through so much, but my dear Lord, because somehow or other you have acknowledged me, you have reduced my suffering, and you're allowing me to constantly serve you. That is how a devotee sees his life actually. Okay, let's have, we may have to zip through them. I think we're okay for the time. Right, who would like to read the next 4?
I would like to take the chance.
Go ahead, Sakshi Mataji.
8. Chant the Maha Mantra loudly and with attachment. This will drive away inertia, worldly evils, and pest.
Thank you, Mataji.
Point 9.
Moment. So chant the Maha Mantra loudly. You see, this has a very special effect, both subtly to our mind and also to our eardrums. When we chant loudly, we hear attentively. But if you just go in your mind, Mansik Japa is a state of a very high consciousness. And those who chant lakhs and lakhs of nouns are able to do it, and it's much faster. But to attain that state, one can't artificially imitate that state. One has to gradually to rise to that platform. And what is advice for us, at least for Mike, like we will hear in the 10th verse, Manda Sumanda Matayo, Manda Bhagya Hi Upadarita. That, dharma, that in this age, our memory is very, very dull, very, very weak. Our mind is not so sharp as what it was in previous ages. But if we chant the Maha Mantra loudly and with attachment, this will drive away the inertia, the laziness. That's another advantage. Worldly evils and pests. Go ahead, Mataji.
Point 9. Be indifferent to bazaar gossip. Stick firmly to your cherished goals. No lack or impediments of the world will ever stand in your way.
Thank you. So this is a very important point. My spiritual master speaks very strongly. I remember when he was initiating me, he gave this instruction and he gives it to all his disciples that please try not to criticize anybody else, especially devotees. And he says it not even in writing or on social media, because we get carried away on these platforms and like to comment on what others have said. But if somehow or other we can guard ourselves from this, actually, this offense can really uplift us, empower us, and accelerate our progress in Krishna consciousness. And you will see it for yourself. Somehow or other, it is very, very subtle, jokingly, mildly, we all get into that habit and say, oh, look at that person. Oh, look at that person. Oh, he's this, he's that, his body is like that. Especially, physical body and his mentality is like that. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying there are so many faults existing in us, and what we are looking outside is nothing but the resemblance of our own heart. Because those tendencies are there, those anarthas are there, we are seeing them manifesting outside in the form of other living entities. We haven't reached that platform. So it's very, very important somehow or other, if we can pray not to criticize others, especially the devotees, then we can really grow our bhakti creeper very, very nicely. And sticking to the cherished goals is a very important point, like how we write some material goals in our life. Again, His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu does a seminar at the end of each year almost I've been attending, where he sits down with the devotees and they write the spiritual goals, that how many pages of Bhagavatam I'm going to read this year, how many pages of Bhagavad Gita, how many prasadam places I'm going to go and serve, how many books am I going to distribute, which prayers am I going to learn. These are really nice way to put down your journal, like Sita Prabhu is given a seminar recently, is to actually write down your goals. It's such a nice habit. Carry on, Mataji.
Point 10. Pay due respects to the extroverts of the world, but do not be appreciative of their manners and conduct. They are to be shaken off from your mind.
Thank you. This is about the point where many may ask, Prabhu, I'm supposed to take association, I'm going to work, and I'm dealing with all these so-called karmic people. What Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying is be among them, but don't become them. Do you understand my point? Be among them, but don't become them. So what I'm trying to say is, at an external level, he's saying pay respects to the extroverts of the world, but do not be appreciative of their manners, because their manners and conduct are very external, very, what is the word? Very, like more like a show off than what their lifestyle is, and they are to be shaken off from your mind. So only just like His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj often quotes this beautiful story of the monkey and the king and the Kaleji. The Kaleji, the heart of the monkey was left on the tree as he lied, and the crocodile invited him for the meal with his wife at home, and he said, I left my heart, and crocodile thought he did. So he went back and he left him. So that's how we should be when we go to such places. Our heart should only be kept for Hari. H for heart and H for Hari. This heart is meant for Hari and nobody else, actually. So when we go into the work, we go in with the consciousness that I'm going to do it as my duty, and I'm going to try to act as the best of the character and as best of my conduct, so others may inspire and see that there is some trace of Krishna consciousness in my body language, in my statement, and in my actions. These three things. When somebody perceives that, that means you have helped that person come closer to Krishna. So our conduct is very important in how we move around in this world. And this is the very pertaining point Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is making here. Go ahead, Mataji, last one.
Point 11. A devotee feels the presence of God everywhere, but one averse to the Lord denies his existence anywhere. Hare Krishna.
That's very straightforward. Point number 12. Can we have one of the Prabhus who would like to read next 3 points?
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Go ahead, Venkat Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Text 12. You cannot appreciate transcendental matters with the reasoning of the world. it is sheer nonsense to dirty them with the measuring stick of your intellect.
Thank you,
Sorry.
Prabhu. So don't get into speculation. When you're approaching the Shastra, परिपाने तद्विधि प्रणिपातेन परिप्रश्नेन सेवया उपदेक्षान्ति te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. Like, be submissive, pranipatin, that renders service. That's our attitude. And when that attitude is prevailing, then you are becoming a rightful recipient of that Hari Katha, of the answers to the question you may have in your mind, and of all that which is yet to come. You're opening your heart, you're opening your gateway by being submissive. No submission, no admission, as His Holiness Mahanidhi Maharaj used to say. No, and he used to say, no submission, no permission, no permission and no admission. So the whole thing works. The submission is a very important part of what we do in our spiritual life. Carry on, Prabhu.
Text 13. To recite the name of Sri Krishna is bhakti.
Thank you, Prabhu. Next one.
14. Life is for the glorification of topics on Hari. If that is stopped, then what need is there to carry on life?
That's it. As I said, dharma swanishtita pamsam vishvaksenu katha suya na utpadet yati ratim shrama eva hi kevalam. Everything is a waste of time if we do not utilize our life for self-preservation, hearing the topics of Hari Katha and perfecting our life. Thank you, Prabhu. Another devotee who would like to read the next 4, please.
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, Seema Mataji, go ahead.
Physical illness with Hari Bhajan is preferred to physical fitness. Sorry, Prabhuji, 1 minute. I think I lost it. Yeah. Sorry, I read it again. Physical illness with Hari Bhajan is preferred to physical fitness without Hari Bhajan.
Okay, what do you think of that point? What is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is trying to say here, Mataji?
Prabhuji, I think you explain it.
Okay, so physical illness with Hari Bhajan is preferred uh, to physical fitness without Hari Bhajan. So he's saying that in order to speak Hari Katha or engage in devotional service, doing your own bhajan, even though if you're not well, it's still worth it than to have physical illness, physical fitness without Hari Bhajan. You may be going to the gym, you may be becoming a perfect stout, having a great body, but that body is again Shrama Eva Hi Kevalam. It's of no use because you're not performing, you're not utilizing that machine for what it is meant to be, which is to engage in the devotional service of the Lord. Go ahead, Mataji.
Our span of life on earth is short. Our life will be crowned with success if the body wears out with constant discourses on Hari.
I can only say how beautiful what Bhakti. These are gems of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. I mean, can it get any better? That our span of life on the earth is short. We know that, right? From Bhagavatam, from our acharyas, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur himself is revealing. And think our life will be crowned with success if the body wears out with constant discourses on Hari. Carry on, Mataji, for the next 2.
We are here on earth not to work as artisans for making big buildings with wood and stone, but to work only as messengers for the teaching of Shri Chaitanya Deva.
Very important lesson, similar to what he gave to Srila Prabhupada at Radhakund, something related here. Who can bring that point back to the surface, what I'm trying to refer here? If you're trying to speak, unmute yourself. Some very pertaining point Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur made at Radhakund to Srila Prabhupada in relation to about building things, also building temples. Does anybody remember that?
Is it, Prabhuji, because the buildings are buildings and the temple is building, but in the temple there is Krishna Daya, and the other buildings there's no Krishna. Is that the difference?
It's not the main point. What I'm trying to refer is he's talking about preaching here, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Let's see who can bring that point which he shared to Prabhupada in Radhakund.
Can I say something, Prabhuji?
Yeah, go ahead, Mataji.
Yeah, I think he's trying to say like making buildings with wood and stone, that is a materialistic thing. And there is no Harinam involved, while the messages by Chaitanya Deva is like saying Harinam, and it gives the message to everyone to recite God's name and his preaching, so that we can develop bhakti in our heart and become a devotee and
Yeah,
go closer to Krishna.
yeah, close Mataji. But the main point on what he's trying to make here is that, yeah, preaching is the essence here. But he gave an instruction to Srila Prabhupada that if I had a choice, he was having some difficulty with the Bagh Bazar temple where his disciples were fighting with which room they will go. And Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada said to our Prabhupada that if I had a choice, I'll sell every marble of that temple
Oh, print
and
books.
I will use that Lakshmi to print books.
Yes.
So that is the crux of these instruction of Bhaktisiddhanta. That was his mood, which Srila Prabhupada has imbibed it. You see, Prabhupada has taken not just one little thing, he's taken his complete mood, but more importantly, the fundamental mood of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was of preaching and of distributing literature of Brihad Mridanga. That was the mood. That is why do you think every single member of the International Society of Krishna Consciousness knows at heart, they may disagree at the level of the mind, but knows at heart that this activity was the most dear activity to Srila Prabhupada, period. There is no doubt about it. But equally, there were all the other aspects are very, very important. But the point I'm trying to make is this one activity was extremely dear to Srila Prabhupada. And why was it dear? Because it was very dear to his Guru Maharaj. So go ahead, Mataji, for the last point.
A sycophant is neither a guru or a preacher.
So sycophant is somebody who does things for the sake of taking advantage of someone. So we are not that. That person cannot be guru or a preacher who likes to take advantage of people. Okay, let me read is there anybody else who would like to read the last two, and then we have last five after this?
Yes, Prabhuji, may I?
Yes, go ahead, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Text 19. To transform the adverse desires of the jivas is the supreme duty of the most merciful. To rescue one person from the stronghold of Mahamaya is an act of superb benevolence, far superior to opening innumerable hospitals.
Do you see the thread coming to? How many of you can see this thread of preaching coming real, pouring out of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur?
Mm-hmm.
And it isn't that a coincidence that they're coming in this order, but try to understand the mood of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Look at the words he's using. To rescue one person from the stronghold of Mahamaya is an act of super benevolence. Today, Radhanath Maharaj was saying in that talk that when the disciples would come back after giving a lecture, they will tell, oh, only 2 people came. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, 2 people, that's very good. He said, even if nobody had come, you should be equally enthusiastic, empowered, and positive in speaking Harikatha, even if it is to the 4 walls. That was the mood of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Go ahead, Mataji.
20. Unless we are devoted to God, secularism shall not leave us.
Very simple to understand. Thank you. Okay, can we have another devotee who would like to read the next 3?
Shall I try, Prabhuji?
Go ahead, Prabhu.
Look within, amend yourself rather than pray into the frivolities of others.
I have mentioned this point earlier, that don't look at the faults of others. They exist only because they exist in us. They are the true reflection, others are the true reflection of what's inside us, actually. So go ahead, Prabhu.
In this world of Maya, averse to the Lord, full of trials and tribulation, only patience, humility, and respect for others are our friends of Hari Bhajan.
Thank you, Prabhu. So this exemplifies the verse from Shikshastakam, Trinadapi Sunichena Tarurapi Sahisuna, Amanina Manadena Kirtayana Sada Hari. Only in that state of mind we can do Hari Bhajan or chant the holy name constantly. Go ahead, Prabhu, last one.
The Lord Gaurasundra puts his devotees in various difficulties and associations to test their patience and strength of mind. Success depends on the good fortune. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Beautiful. Thank you, Prabhu. Look at that. Success depends on good fortune, which is also created by our spiritual masters. Go ahead. Anybody else for the last two?
Can I read?
Yeah, one. There are two Matajis who said Hare Krishna. So Bhati Mataji, you read first, and then the other Mataji can read the last one.
Sure, thanks. When faults in others misguide and delude you, have patience, introspect, find fault in yourself. Know that others cannot harm you unless you harm yourself.
What a meditation. Seriously, I mean, what our life will be without Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, I'm thinking. Yes, Mataji, please go ahead and read I can't remember the name of the Mataji who said Hare Krishna.
I wish that every selfless, tender-hearted person of Gaudiya Math will be prepared to shed 200 gallons of blood for the nourishment of the spiritual corpus of every individual of this world.
Jai. So that's the final instruction on this note. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying, just go out and preach. And my Guru Maharaj quotes this very often, that when you get rejection from people who do not take your books or do not want to chant Hari Katha, don't be disheartened. Be very humbly proud, because you're developing Chit Rakta, which means spiritual blood for your spiritual body. And look what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying. He's saying, I wish that every selfless, tender-hearted person of Gaudiya Math will be prepared to shed 200 gallons of blood for the nourishment of the spiritual corpse of every individual of this world. Look at his mood. So I'm conscious of the time. Since we did not have question and answers, I think we utilized our time very well. Do you agree with, did you find anything inspiring in these instructions of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur? Do you think you would like to print them and put it on your wall, or at least read one every day or few every day? Do you feel inspired that, or feel very grateful that we have coming in a line of such amazing teachers like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who are directly telling us to preach absolute truth? They're not telling us to go here, worship this personality, do this, do that, give water here, give water there. They're saying just do Hari Bhajan, Hari Katha, and distribution of Hari Katha. That's what they are trying to tell us. So do you all feel at all encouraged in your spiritual life by these instructions of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur on his most auspicious day?
Yes,
Yes,
Prabhuji.
Yes,
Yes,
Prabhu.
Prabhuji.
Well, I too as well.
Yes. Yes, very much so, Prabhuji.
Very much so, Prabhuji, yes.
Yes, Prabhuji, very much so.
Okay, wonderful. Okay. Any quick reflection or a comment? Any reflection which really stuck out of all the 25 we read? I will post the slides today, and I will try not to delay them, Sunita Mataji. I'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
I would like to say the one that most stuck with me is to look within yourself, rather than finding faults outside.
Yeah.
Meditate upon yourself. Look within yourself and do what is right. That's what I've got to learn to do, I think. Yes.
Yeah. I have a question here from one Prabhu Mataji, saying, wishing your worst enemy the highest good is easier to say than to do. If someone harms you or a member of your family or steals from you, should we just sit back and accept as a result of our past life karma and let the offender get away with it again and again? No, Prabhu, that's not what I was intending to say. The point is, we are still living in this purview of the material world. So you still have to protect your body, because you need to engage your body in the service of Krishna. And if you're practicing Krishna consciousness, and if those person has harmed one of your family members who are also Vaishnava, because you're practicing that, then that anger should be utilized towards them. This we learned from Hanuman, who utilized his anger in the service of Lord Ram very beautifully. So to the extent and living within the morality and following the codes and conducts, you should do everything what is possible in your capacity to guard and protect your family, so that this family can be engaged in the service of the Lord. That I would still recommend. However, the overall arching principle or the main thing here is that deep inside we should develop the mood that yes, it must have been something to do with my past life, because otherwise nothing happened without the will of the Lord, Prabhu. But at an external level, we still have to act. That is a sensible devotee. That is a sensible person. We cannot sit quietly when somebody comes and steal. You still have to report to the police. You still have to follow the protocol. You cannot sit quiet if somebody comes and harms a Vaishnava. You need to take appropriate action as much as possible. So that would be my short answer to your question. I hope that helps. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't catch your name. It's coming up as an iPhone. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Yes, we have a reflection from Shailesh Prabhu. Praying for them will transform your experience with them. That's right. Yeah, just pray for the benefit of everyone, because whatever they have done, even if it is inimical and not right, they are driven by the modes of the material nature, and they are conditioned even more than you, because you have some clarity, you're able to see things and bring perspective to it, but they can't. So just whatever punishment is there, Krishna will take care of it. We may be able to, the law of this country may be able to forgive us once, or we have crossed the red light or something, we may not get the penalty immediately, but nothing get missed by Krishna. He's Sarvasya Chaham Hidi Sani Vishto. He's situated in our heart. He's seeing everything actually. Okay, dear devotees, on that note, Sakshi, the most thing that stuck in today's session is when you said the heart is Hari. Yeah, that's right. Our heart is meant for Hari. That's what I meant, because Hari means one who steals. And we should only pray for one who steals. May the Lord Hari steal our heart, because that's what is required. If the heart is stolen by Krishna, then we are not hankering for anything else in the world actually. Then that is the best stealing which can happen in our life actually, which we will never regret. All the other stealing which will take place in our life, including our own body, we will cry. But if that stealing one day takes place, there's no better stealing than that stealing. We should actually pray day and night, let my heart be stolen by Krishna. The biggest thief in the world, in the creation, in the entire creation, is Lord Hari. So dear devotees, on that note, I wish you all a wonderful meditation on the qualities of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. I make a small prayer here to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, to our A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada and all our previous acharyas, that they may continue to empower us so that we not only able to somehow or other follow these instructions which have been left behind with them, which were their life and soul, but also we apply them in our life. We try to follow them to the best of our capacity, and also to share them with others for the world's benefit, so that every conditioned soul gets an opportunity to turn their face towards Krishna, for the Lord is very much hankering to have us back in his association. So thank you for considering our request. Those of you who agree with this prayer, either in part or whole, kindly unmute yourself and say Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everybody. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhasya kripa
Hare Krishna.
sindhuvekha patitanam
Hare Krishna. And thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hare Bol.
Hari Bol.